I'm single and I don't have any kids. Neither do I want any kids.
I'm starting to see a lot of women and men saying, thank God I don't have a baby.
More and more people are choosing not to have kids.
It's no surprise to me at all that people in their 20s and their 30s are not having children. What did they expect to happen?
It's a domino effect. First, men stop approaching. They are no longer dating as much. And now, no one wants kids anymore. Birth rates are collapsing in every country, from the US to Japan to South Korea, and governments are panicking. They're not worried because families are disappearing. They're worried because without men stepping up, the system itself starts to collapse. And here's the part that no one says out loud. For the first time in history, governments need men more than ever. But men, they've already walked away. And that single choice is shaking entire nations. Let's talk about how we got here and why all the pressure suddenly falling back on men. And that leaves us with the question, if the system stacked against men created this crisis, why should men be the one expected to fix it?
I'm a father too. I love my kids. I would never change that. I actually want more kids, right? But I completely understand why people don't want to have kids, right? There's like literally zero incentive. It's financially hard nowadays. You don't know what the hell's going on with the food. A lot of kids are coming out autistic, which, I mean, makes your life a lot harder forever. So I 100% get it.
For decades, men have been punished in divorce courts, drained by child support laws, and blamed when marriages collapse. So, what could possibly convince them to return? What would truly have to change for men to even care again? Or is this the point of no return, where men's silence speaks louder than any protest, and governments are finally being forced to face the consequences of ignoring men for too long? Here's what no one wants to admit. Men didn't step back for no reason. They were pushed. It's not that men suddenly stopped caring about families or that they don't want love. It's that when they look at the reality of modern relationships, the risks are stacked so high, it almost feels insane to step in. Let's start with marriage. Roughly half of marriages in the US still end in divorce.
The society we're creating right now, more and more men don't want to get married. And I get why. There is almost zero upside for men getting married. This isn't me saying that men shouldn't get married, or women, but think about what society is telling men about what being a man is.
Men usually knows what happens. Losing half of everything they worked for. Years of alimony payments and a custody system that often tilts against them. Guys watch their friends go through it, or maybe they saw their fathers go through it, and they think, why would I sign up for this? Then there's a financial side. The average cost of raising a single child in America has climbed to over $300,000 through age 17. And that's before you even think about college. Childcare has gotten so bad that in all 50 states, it now costs more than rent. Add groceries, healthcare, inflation on top of that. And for most young men, fatherhood doesn't look like building a future. It looks like financial collapse. And we can't ignore housing. Back in the 1960s, the average home cost about 2 years of wages. Today, that same home costs close to about 5 years of income. Since 1960, housing prices in the US has risen by 121%, but incomes have only gone up 29%. So, even before you think about kids, most young men can't even get their foot on the first step, buying a home. And dating? The market is brutal. Apps promise to make it easier, but a few studies found that 75% of people say it's difficult to find someone compatible. Even when you do get a date, there's that constant grass is greener mentality. It feels like no one is really investing in something long-term. Men are weighing their options. Marriage looks risky. Fatherhood looks expensive. Dating feels one-sided. And slowly, they're realizing something powerful. Stepping back is safer. For the first time, men are protecting their time, their money, their peace of mind by saying, no, I'm not playing this game anymore. And saying, my wallet, my choice. And here's the loop. When men step back from relationships, marriages collapse. When marriages collapse, birth rates collapse. And when birth rates collapse, governments panic. But the real question is, can throwing money at the problem or begging men to date again actually work? Or is this a shift that can't be reversed? So, what happens when birth rates collapse? Governments start scrambling to find the best solution. Take Taiwan. They recently spent over $3 billion trying to encourage families to have more kids, and it barely moved the needle. France spends nearly 4% of its GDP on family benefits, tax breaks, and childcare support. To put that into perspective, if the US did the same thing, it would be pouring the entire defense budget into babies. And even then, France still struggles with low fertility. Here in America, politicians have already floated ideas like baby bonus, a one-time cash payment of around $5,000 for every newborn.
I mean, they're trying to pay people $5,000 to have kids or whatever. That doesn't even cover your first 6 months of having a kid, right?
But let's be real, when the average cost of giving birth in the US hospital can hit $10,000 or more without insurance, for most men, that feels out of touch with the real cost of family life. Other governments are trying cultural-based solutions. In China, universities are now offering love and marriage courses, literally teaching students how to date and settle down. In Japan, local towns have sponsored government-run matchmaking to pair off young singles. Imagine your own city hall hosting speed dating nights because the population is collapsing. That's how serious it's gotten.
I saw so many Black women try to solve a problem in dating by starting to host events in person, trying to create third spaces to facilitate dating like offline. And you know what would happen every single time? The men were not signing up. They would be selling tickets to speed dating, and they would always end up with men's tickets on sale. Always, because they weren't buying any. Just the other day, a big account that I follow for Black creatives did like this cute Cupid thing where they were like, hey, send us a profile about yourself and we would love to post it and like play matchmaker. Sounds like a cute idea, right? Not one single man sent their profile in.
The wildest example might be South Korea. Over the past decade and a half, their government has poured more than $200 billion into programs aimed at encouraging childbirth. They've offered monthly allowances, extended parental leave, even cash bounties as high as $60,000 per child from private companies. And yet, their fertility rate has continued to drop, hitting 0.7, the lowest in recording history. And here's the truth, none of it is working. Men don't want to ignore divorce laws, child support risks, or the crushing cost of modern parenthood. Governments want workers, taxpayers, and soldiers. But men aren't looking at this from the perspective of keeping the system alive. They're looking at their own lives, their freedom, and their peace of mind. And that's the loop right here. Governments around the world are panicking, pouring money into the problem. But the men they need aren't listening. Because at the end of the day, men are motivated by fairness, respect, and trust. And right now, the system offers none of this. So here's the next question. If the government can't buy men back into the game, what happens to the society that runs out of family altogether? Let's zoom out. What does it actually look like when a country runs out of kids? We don't have to guess. It's already happening right now. In South Korea, thousands of schools have shut down because there aren't enough students to fill the seats. Entire towns are turning into ghost towns, left behind as the population shrinks. In Japan, more adult diapers are sold every year than baby diapers. That's how top-heavy their society has become. And here in the United States, the clock is ticking. By 2035, for the first time in history, there will be more Americans over the age of 65 than under 18. That means the economy filled with gray hair, but not enough young people to replace them. In the 1960s, there were about 6 workers per every retiree paying into Social Security. By 2035, that ratio will fall to about 2 workers per retiree. Fewer workers paying in, more retiree cashing out. The math just doesn't work. That's why governments around the world are panicking. Fewer kids today means fewer workers tomorrow. That means less tax money, fewer people paying into Social Security, and fewer young men to join the military. It's already showing up in recruitment. Military branches have missed their enlistment targets in recent years. Think about that for a second. When talking about fertility crisis, they're worried about who is going to fund the system. And it's not just America. Italy recently declared a national emergency over record low birth. Across the European Union, the average fertility rate dropped to 1.4, the lowest ever recorded. Countries like Spain and Portugal are sitting near 1.3. At those levels, populations don't just shrink, they collapse over time. And here's the irony. Men step back because the system wasn't fair to them. And now the very system is asking men to save it? But why would they? Why would men sacrifice their money, their peace, their future to fix a problem they didn't create? This is the point where things get interesting, because if men don't come back, if they keep stepping back from marriage and fatherhood, society starts to shift in ways we've never seen before. Housing markets crash because there aren't enough families to buy homes. Retirement system buckle because there aren't enough workers paying in. Entire industries shrink because there aren't enough consumers. And yet, here's the loop. Even if all of that starts to collapse, men might still decide it's not worth stepping back into a broken system, which raises the final and most important question. What does the future actually look like if men never return? And who's really ready for that answer? So, here's where we are. First, men stopped approaching. Then, they stopped dating as much. And now, no one wants kids anymore. Birth rates are falling everywhere, and governments are scrambling with cash bonuses, tax breaks, but nothing is working. And here's the truth men already see. This isn't just about dating or family anymore. It's about the bigger picture. Countries need stable families, workers, and communities to keep society moving. And for the first time in history, they're realizing how much they rely on men to make that possible. But men have also realized something powerful. They can't be pressured back into the old system if the risk fell too high. When marriage looks uncertain, when fatherhood costs hundreds and thousands of dollars, when housing feels out of reach, and when dating feels one-sided, stepping back isn't weakness, it's a form of self-protection. And that's why no single policy or quick solution can fix this overnight. Because at the heart of it, this isn't just about money. It's about trust. So, the next time you hear about a fertility crisis, remember this. It didn't start with kids. It started with dating. Men stopped playing the game that no longer makes sense to them. And now, the effects are rippling across the nation. And here's the final thought. When men stop playing the game, the world shifts. And maybe, just maybe, that silence isn't weakness at all. It's the loudest cry for change this generation has ever heard. Because if nothing changes, it won't just be dating that disappears. It'll be families, legacies, and entire nations. That silence isn't the end of something. It's the warning shot that everything we took for granted is already slipping away. So, let me know in the comments, guys. Let me know, what are you thinking? What are your thoughts? What are you feeling? It's been your girl, Remi Rene here. I'll see you guys in my next video.